thank you very much, Scott, for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be here today, taking a little bit of time off of the campaign trail. Also, thanks, I think Mike already left, but thanks to him for all the kind words. I was actually kind of blushing when he was talking. And speaking of help, we have Rebecca over, who's given up quite a bit of help to my campaign in terms of getting everything going, and really a lot of things, getting into debates as an independent and everything. A lot of it is actually due to a pretty wide internet presence, as well as getting volunteers motivated on the streets. The reason that, again, Scott asked me to come here and talk, and it won't be a campaign speech or anything, is to quickly try to share with you guys an idea that I've had called our open office. And if anyone reads the Constitution of the United States, in Article 1, Article 4, Section 4, it reads that the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a Republican form of government. So, you know, and that's a capital R. What is a Republican form of government? Does it mean, you know, the government from the Republican Party? And what it actually comes down to is the very meaning of the word republic. You know, again, when Franklin walked out of the signing of the, when he walked out, he said, you know, a lady on the street asked him, you know, what do we have here? And he said, you know, a republic, if you can keep it. So just ask a question from the crowd. Do you guys understand like what the actual meaning of a republic is?
Ruled by law.
Yes, it's the rule of law, and it also, the word republic comes from the Latin, and it's a combination of two words, res publica, and what res publica means literally is the public affairs. So again, all the affairs of government is supposed to be made public, not private, and the way our governments run really on the local and state and even on national levels is not exactly very public. One of the things, and as a little bit of a prelude to this idea, one of the ways I got this idea from was actually the current President of the United States. When he was campaigning to become president, he talked about accountability and transparency. And currently, you know, and one of the things that I actually put in place was right before his inauguration, he put up just a forum, and anybody could go in and they could list whatever issue they wanted, and they could vote it up or down and comment below it. I was like, man, this is a pretty good idea. And just, you know, a couple days before his inauguration, he stopped it and pulled it down because, you know, what was ended up happening was what was on people's mind was what was coming out. And that's not something, you know, in a free and open society, like when we have dissent, that dissent is actually something that should be protected and encouraged at all costs, not just tolerated. And that's the whole idea, is to get ideas from the public and get unique perspectives on things. So let me try this little pointer thingy, see if it works. If not, we'll have to, okay, I think it's actually working. So again, just real quick, I'm running as an independent out in eastern Pennsylvania around the Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton area. And again, let's get to the start of it. This presentation will actually be pretty short. Again, it's just transmitting the idea. I have a handout as well afterwards that we'll give out to people. But for the balance of the time, feel free to ask questions, even as we go. The open office consisted of 4 ideas. The first is an online forum for public feedback and debate. The second is monthly reports. Third is an online submission service. And the last is what I call on-demand town halls. The first part has, you know, the way it would work is any resident in the area, and this is another quick fact, I'm running for United States Congress. Does anyone know how many residents or citizens are in each congressional district in the United States? No, it's actually quite a bit higher. It's about 711,000 residents. And I have some ideas actually on how to address it as well, but it's a tremendous amount of people to, you know, represent. And one of the ways I think about going about this is, you know, every resident, if they so choose, like there's nothing going to be forcing them to do anything, but if they so choose, they can call up the office, they get a little password, and they can go in and they can literally comment on every single type of House floor bill. They can, you know, comment, you know, for and against certain House floor bills. If they call in by phone, everything will be tallied, and it'll all be on a certain web page, so people could take a look at it, and you'd be able to, at a very quick glance, see where people were one way or the other. And then the idea, again, is very, very, for folks that don't use the internet, if someone calls into the office, if they want it to be, tallied up for them, or if they want to leave a comment, it could just be dictated in. Also, if you're sending in letters, those things, it's actually extremely easy to put into a PDF and put up. So the whole idea is to make the government as open and transparent to the public as really as possible. And so this, and one of the other ideas is that at certain points, like, you might not want to know every last little thing that the United States Congress is doing. Some people actually might. But if you were only interested in certain topics on things, you'd also have like a personalization, so you get these notifications. And really, again, everything's kind of going back to being a public servant rather than trying to be a master. And again, if folks don't have email or computer access, they could use the terminals at the district office, dictating comments by phone. And again, if they want their forms, like if they send in a letter to the office, as long as they're comfortable publishing it, then it would be published. If not, then obviously it wouldn't be. And next is the monthly reports. And again, what I'll be doing is a pretty novel thing, and I think you'll kind of get this. Everything that I'm saying isn't exactly rocket science. Every month I'll put out a report, and I'll tell people, I'll read through the feedback that people put in. I'll tell people not just how I voted, but also why I voted every single time. So there'll always be a written record. And one of the things that I ended up adding in after this, after talking with a lot of residents, is that if they disagree with me on whatever the topic is, they can write in below, Jake, I disagree with you here, or you forgot this point, or I didn't agree with your vote because of this or that. And the whole idea is to have a very open and transparent, and try to, give people that voice. And not everybody might use it, but the whole idea is you are enabling people to have, what is really in their Constitution, the right to petition their government for redress of grievances. Again, it would also list co-sponsoring activity, any new bills introduced, and again, I'd always be answering why. Like, my background is as a chemical engineer, and you don't really learn a lot about any subject unless you keep asking yourself one simple question, why? And then again, just one of the other fun things, like, each representative in the United States Congress has a budget of $1.2 to $1.4 million. What do they do with it? If you actually want to find out, there's really not, to get in the nitty-gritty, there's no place you can really get it. You have to go to certain libraries, federal libraries, actually look at the records. Again, when I'd be elected, I'd just tell people, here's a little document you can download and read, and this is how the money was spent. Again, not rocket science. The next idea is the online bill submission service. And what's actually if you read the House rules, one of the things that's actually given its own little line is any resident in the district, any resident is allowed to propose a bill. They can propose it to their member in Congress, their representative, and the representative ultimately gets to decide whether or not to move forward on it or not. But the thing is, even though they have this written in, there's no actual mechanism for it. So all this does is very quickly and easily give people a mechanism. And again, if you wanted to put in a new type of bill, you'd have to cite the Constitution of the United States and why it's actually constitutional. But if you wanted to revoke a bill, either because it's an unconstitutional bill or because it's just a bad bill overall, you'll be able to do that. And the whole thing is, in my district, the whole thing is to make this transparent. So someone puts an idea up there, and one of the feedback that I've got from this is you'll be overwhelmed with ideas. And I was like, well, that's actually the exact opposite of what we have right now in the federal Congress. We really have a dearth of ideas. And what this tool will give is, number one, give people their individual right to voice their opinions, and number two, the way I view it is, coming from industry, what you need is peer review. And like, there's certain people that are going to have certain views on certain things or affected by certain bills in the past, and it's best to get what's most important to them. And again, just back to the whole accountability thing, which is the main thing. Like, I'll always give a reply back, so in case we don't move ahead with whatever the idea is, I'd say, here's why we did that way, or in case we do move ahead with it, or certain things, obviously that would be pretty easy. For those of you that aren't aware, for a member of Congress, to introduce a bill, all you literally do is take a little piece of paper, drop it into a bucket, bill's introduced. Yeah, it's a lot harder to get it passed and moved ahead, but that is actually all that is really required. And again, the whole idea of this, and I think that there's a lot of potential, like even if one person was to get into office and actually put some type of government like this into place, or some type of forum like this, the idea of it, I think, would kind of catch fire. And that's also one of the key things. And when I go around talking with people, it's one of the first things that I bring up. And it's actually extremely popular with just about anybody. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I might just get a reply like, oh, that's a good idea. But a lot of times what I'll hear is, if I were running for office, that's exactly what I would do. And again, all this, actually, the whole open office idea is not rocket science. It's just an idea that's out there, and it's very simple to implement. Like in today's society, if you have a friend in San Francisco, you want to figure out what they're having on, a sandwich, or what they're having in their coffee, you can easily figure it out with, these things like Twitter or Facebook, but yet you don't know what your own congressman is doing. And that just seems to be a bit of a huge contradiction, especially as our nation finds itself in some pretty troubling times. All right, the last idea is the on-demand town halls. And what we would do, or what I would do, my office would put in place is not only like if I'm in DC, it would just be a teleconference. If I'm actually back in the area on recess or whatever, once a week we would have a forum for residents to come by and show up. But I actually don't think that's quite enough, because not everybody, for instance, a lot of these teleconference town halls, a lot of people don't get their questions answered. They might not be able to make certain times. So one of the ways to deliver accountability as a public servant is to enable the people to basically recall their public servant to go and talk to them on whatever topic it is. And I haven't come up with the idea, exactly how many people would take. It would be certainly not just one or two people, but a certain mass of people, say 50 or whatever. If they actually wanted to meet and talk with me on something and it's unclear where I'm at, or I just plain disagree with them, I'll still go and listen to what they have to say, mainly because I'm a representative and it's my job to actually do this. All right, and I think that's actually going to bring me to the end. Yep. So that's the end of the idea. We have a handout that we'll walk around. I didn't want to trouble everybody with the handout at the very beginning, but we have a handout on the whole idea. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to ask. And thanks a lot for having me here today. Please.